for the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize after he helped secure an economic relations deal between Serbia and Kosovo days after he was nominated for his role in a deal between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. Now, joining us with more on what many are saying is a historic Middle East peace deal and how it affects the upcoming election, or could it affect the upcoming election? We have author and political contributor Tom Del Vaccaro. Tom, good to see you on this Sunday.
Great to see you. This is an historic period of time. JFK used to say that domestic politics can defeat us, but foreign policy can kill us. And these peace deals mark an incredible change in world history. And quite honestly, for someone who's been following foreign policy for 4 decades, this is an exciting moment. The Middle East is changing, and it could be changing forever.
Well, number one, Middle East peace deals are rare. And then having a deal before a U.S. general election is even more rare.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote about that at the Epoch Times this week. It's been 25 years since there's been a peace deal with Israel. Now we've had two, and you can expect at least one more, perhaps Oman, maybe even the Sudan. But keep this in mind. The big player here is Saudi Arabia. And the UAE and Bahrain would not have made their peace deals without close consultation with Saudi Arabia. And what's driving all of this is a desire for these countries to actually influence the American election. And I know that sounds provocative, but here is what they're thinking. They want no part of a revitalized Iran. Joe Biden has publicly said his policy would be to allow Iran to come back into the world, remove sanctions, and flood Iran with money. Iran, when it has money, disrupts the Middle East, pays for death in the form of giving surrogates money or funding their conventional war. The Middle East, most of the Middle East doesn't want that anymore. They do not want a Biden presidency.
So, as we look ahead to the general election, is all of this going to give President Trump an election boost, if you will, among certain voters?
Well, if you think about it, the Democrats have said for months that the world doesn't believe that Trump is a good person or that we have lost prestige worldwide. Well, we've had 3 peace deals in the last 30 days. I think there will be at least one more. It's pretty much hard to argue that Trump isn't doing good things on the world stage when he has changed the Middle East or participated in the change in the Middle East forever. So yes, it removes an argument of the Democrats and also tells the world and our voters that he can be trusted on the international stage.
So tell me something, Tom. How has President Trump been able to make these peace advancements with the possibility of more to come? I mean, what's different? What's his approach? How does his approach differ? What has he done differently than President Obama, let's say, when he was?
Well, you can go back for 30 years of policy by never-Trumpers or the Republican establishment or the Democrats who believed that the way to get a peace deal was to appease Iran and appease the Palestinian leaders. Well, that has been 25 years of failure. So what Trump did was contain Iran, defund Iran. Now that Iran has less money, it's doing less provocative things. He, of course, killed their military leader who was disrupting the Middle East. And he has not focused on the Palestinian leaders. Instead, he has stood strong by Israel. The results of that have been less trouble in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia recognizes this, Bahrain, UAE. And so by shifting away from trying to appease Iran to containing Iran, which, by the way, is how we dealt with Russia, Soviet Union for decades, and it worked. By doing that, he has changed the table there, and he had moved the embassy to Jerusalem. And these countries that are more interested in the future, there's been generational changes in these Arab leaders. They see a peaceful future, and that's why the dynamics changed. And if you had one reason to vote this fall, The reason you should vote is for world peace, because Joe Biden funding Iran would be a disaster, and it would change things back to the way they were.
Yeah. Do you have any question? Is there any question that President Trump is a successful foreign policy president?
He is the most successful Middle Eastern president in history, and it's going to get better if we stay the course. And just imagine a world where Middle East peace is a reality, and we're seeing it, versus a provocative Iran. You can't underestimate how valuable to the world that is. And I hope Americans realize what a disaster it would be to go to a Biden appeasement policy in Iran.
Tom Del Beccaro, thank you so much for your take on the matter, your perspective. It's good to see you on an